Колеги, дякую.
Dear colleagues, thank you for waiting. We continue our working day, and I give the floor to the spokesperson of the administration of the President of Ukraine on the issues of anti-terrorist operation, Colonel Andriy Lysenko. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Today, in the morning of the 10th of August, at around 3 a.m., after a massive artillery preparation fire, almost 400 gunmen, supported by 10 tanks, 10 armored infantry vehicles, and other machines have launched an offensive next to Starognatyivka in the triangle Volnovakha-Komsomolsk-Telmanovo. The military and political leadership of Ukraine has urgently reacted to the danger. In the morning there was a working meeting with the participation of the Commander-in-Chief, the Secretary of the Council for National Security and Defense, and so on, to repel the attack of the occupants. There was a decision to use artillery, of which were informed representatives of OSCE and Special Coordination Center. Because of the professional actions of the Ukrainian military, the attempt of offensive was stopped. The enemy sustained significant losses and was thrown away to 2-3 kilometers, and as a result of counteroffensive, our military have returned control over strategic heights. This rampant attack of the occupants has happened against the background of the escalation of the situation in the east of Ukraine, caused by the aggressive actions of the illegal armed formation. Over the last 24 hours, 127 enemy shellings of the positions of anti-terrorist operation forces happened, which is the biggest amount since the battle for Debaltseve finished. Every third firing of the gunmen is from heavy armaments. Besides, the Russian terrorist troops have conducted 7 mortar and artillery shellings of the Ukrainian settlements in the vicinity of Horlivka, Donetsk, and Mariupol. In Luhansk sector, the enemy mortar shelling of frontline strongholds of the anti-terrorist operation forces continue next to Stanitsa Luhanska, and they are firing during the night time from the right bank of the Seversky Donets. The similar situation is in Shastya, although there they do not use heavy armaments. Active combat continues to the north of Bakhmutka highway. The epicenter of juxtaposition is in the village of Krimska, where yesterday the enemy has conducted a powerful mortar and artillery shelling of our defense. Next to Tryokhizbenka and Novotoshkivska, yesterday there was a relative calm, as well as next to Zolote, and they have just conducted 1 mortar shelling around midnight. In Donetsk sector, the situation on the edge of 2 regions remains especially tense, extraordinarily tense, because here the gunmen are firing at the Ukrainian military simultaneously from southern and eastern directions. In particular, after midnight, the enemy shelled our strongholds in Troitsky from tanks. According to intelligence, the enemy holds their armored vehicles in Almazna. They also used self-propelled artillery. And the enemy Grad multiple launchers were moved several kilometers closer to the front line.
At the front line, which goes across Lugansk and Lozove, was quite calm. Instead, there are shellings between illegal armed groups and Ukrainian servicemen to the north of Gorlivka. In Zaitsevo, The sounds of the shelling was heard almost all day. The situation in other pre-front-line settlements is also not calm. This is in Kirovsky and Leninsk. The mortar shellings at ATO forces were resumed, and this is in Novohorodsk, where the railway station and strategic enterprise of chemical industry is located. Between Gorlivka and Donetsk, the only point of opposition was Verkhnotoretsk settlement, where after in the morning the enemy was shelling from mortars for 3 hours. The frontline heavy weaponry at this section of frontline is concentrated in Patali-Monovka. In Mariupolsky direction, the enemy started openly using heavy weaponry also in the daytime from 120 millimeter mortar guns. They were shelling at our positions near Starognativka, and from 152 millimeter guns at Orlovska, which is to the east of Pavlopol. They were firing from southern eastern direction at a big distance. Also, Priovrazhny and Vodyane-Volodarsky district were shelled at. These settlements are at the distance of 10 kilometers from the front line. Also, the situation is difficult along the highway Novozovsk-Mariupol. For 3 hours, the militants were firing from 122 millimeter guns at reinforcements of ATO forces and at residential areas of Lebedynsky settlement. The enemy's artillery is dislocated in Bezymenne settlement. Also late at night, the ATO forces were fighting with the enemy in Shirokino. This fighting continued for about an hour. Mariupol and outskirts are well protected. They are defended by the best units of the armed forces of Ukraine. Yesterday in ATO zone, there were flying of 24 drones registered, and during the last 24 hours, in the result of military actions, 1 Ukrainian serviceman was killed, 16 were wounded, and 1 Ukrainian serviceman is missing. This is all. Now your questions. Unfortunately, we don't have any time for questions. Dear journalists, you can ask all the questions in the lobby. The next press briefing will take place in a minute.